Hello everybody. Welcome back to the YouTube. So I talked about it on Twitter. Give me a second to pull up my profile. Pulled up the other one. I pulled up the other two that I want to talk about real quick. These are the VOD reviews I'm going to do today. We're going to be talking about Nova versus NAOS. I'm going to talk about Game 1 first. That'd be a good start. But past that, I did run this poll. If anybody has anything that they'd like to say in the comments, feel free to do so, or just at me on Twitter at mblizkinq if you prefer a specific type of VOD review. For this game, I'm specifically going to be talking about the junglers, because I saw here keep it general and a bit of both, so I'm just going to probably just keep doing what I'm doing and maybe add some more specific VOD reviews in. If you're interested in this specific type of VOD reviews, I'd check out these VOD reviews that I'm going to put up later. As you can see, it's on the list. I want to specifically talk about the ADC role in that game because X1 is genuinely insanely good at the game. Um, this game was, this series was just a hell of a series. If you haven't watched it already and you're like a Wild Rift Esports fan, I'd encourage you to check it out and then come back if that's your thing. Both teams played extremely well. Um, okay, we got. So let's talk about draft. So we see Fiora ban, Ziggs ban. Nova's still one of the only teams that's banning and respecting Ziggs, which is insane to me, because every single time we've seen him, he's been game defining. I think people have just forgotten how good he is, or they just don't understand how to draft around him, and like make sure that you draft so you can push your ADC mid, and then keep that Ziggs bot lane. Because if that Ziggs gets into the game with a good angle, I think that he is still the best champion in terms of damage output. So he is the guy that I'm going to be looking at in terms of the future as well. Big fan of that. Zeri, best ADC in the game. If you guys watched EDG co-stream, I complained about literally if we're gonna not pick Zeri early, she needs to be banned. She's insanely good. And then I like the Fiora ban as well. Just another, probably the best top laner in the game, to be honest. It's insane how good she is. Hecarim, Fiddle, Evelyn. So, Shen is up, Camille is up. Those are the two. Shen, Camille, and then you have like the Ornn, the Gragas as well, which are also things to consider in terms of like what got through this first draft phase. The Zaya as well, but I'm convinced that she is bait. We'll get a little bit into that. We'll get a little bit into that into the game, but I am convinced that this champion is not actually that good. Camille first pick. It's fine. I'm not a huge fan of it, as I've talked about previously. I'm like, I'm really torn on Camille because every time I see her, she's getting piss stomped in lane. But if you do get the Jax Camille Fiora band, I think she's very good. I don't like her here because they haven't banned Jax yet, and Jax is still on the table. Knowing that Jax gets off the table, she's a fine pick. On the other side, we see Ornn Zaya 1-2. Uh, yeah, this makes sense. I generally prefer the Gragas side of the matchup in terms of Ornn versus Gragas. I think that he has a little bit more flexibility in terms of how he can play against the Ornn, and I think the Ornn's relegated to like a slightly worse position in the matchup. That overall, though, I really like the Ornn as like I think the power that the Ornn puts out is just slightly more. He just does insane amounts of damage right now. I don't like Zaya. The reason that I don't like Zaya, first of all, people are going Shock Blaster on her. It's not good. Stop coping. It's just such an item that like decreases the normal power spike, right? Because if you think about like what literally like I'll use Neela as an example because she's probably the best other crit ADC in the game, right? Although she's not played in bot lane, which slightly changes things. But Neela, okay, BT, IE, and then we have some assortment of like you can go Mortal Reminder, you can go Navari, and like you could also go the shield bow. You can also go like shield bow, right? Like, that's the sort of assortment. These 5 items are the good crit items. Every other crit item is really bad, don't buy it. I cannot explain how bad, it's so bait, the Shock Blaster, because it doesn't actually do that much damage. It's not that much better than Essence Reaver, and like people have dropped Essence Reaver because it doesn't come online fast enough. So why would you build what is effectively Essence Reaver with a little bit of Static Shiv passive, which isn't good, right? It doesn't have enough passive. Like, the reason that Static Shiv is good in PC League is because it like clears wave really quickly. But here it doesn't do that. RFC, why do you care about RFC on Xayah? If you're drafting Xayah, you want them to be engaging into you. So that's like, okay. So that doesn't make any sense, right? The other reason why Xayah is ass is because she is getting drafted with engage comps. These two, I cannot explain how much anti-synergy they have. Xayah wants people to run into her. Engage comps, right? This is, so we will say that, we'll just, fuck, that's not what I want to do. They are on red side right now, so we will say that this is Xayah. What Xayah wants is the blue team, these two, to go run into her. They want them to be coming at her so that she can spam her abilities, kite backwards, and then use her E to get the root, and then basically neutralize whatever's coming at her in terms of pressure. Engage compositions do the exact opposite, right? Engage composition wants to move forward and focus out like a single member of the enemy team. So why are you picking an ADC that wants to kite backwards with an engage composition? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. And that's why I'm gonna keep fucking complaining about Xayah. Kha'Zix here. Kha'Zix is fine. This is one of those, like, I'm not generally a huge fan of Kha'Zix right now. He's, like, fine, though. But at the same time, it's literally the best Kha'Zix player in the world. So, give him Kha'Zix, man. Like, we're going to talk about it later. I know that we're going to talk about it in Game 2 and Game 3. But this series was one of the worst incidents of Log and Friends, where you'll see this boy at like 705. Let me read that. Right, you'll see Long over here like 705, and then everybody else will have a negative scoreline. And it's just like, get him some help. And like, if just put him on a carry, let him fucking do his thing. Vladimir pick, very good. Especially because they do end up banning the cast in here, and I would assume, given that they pick the Orianna here, that Margot or Mitsura cannot play a Kali. Okay, cool. We go Vi here. I've already explained why I don't like Vi and why she's bad in this team composition. In isolation, she might be good into Kha'Zix, but because you picked Vi, it individually makes these two picks, right here and right here, worse. So there's no reason to pick Vi. She's just bad here. We'll talk about why they do end up picking it once we get into the game, because Fate's very good on it individually. Okay, so we see bans here. Gragas makes sense, right? You don't want to have that matchup into Ornn. Jax makes sense. You don't want that matchup into Camille. Galio, again, makes sense. Stopping the Camille Galio. Kassadin, just stopping the Vladimir counters, right? So basically, Nova just takes this time to reinforce their top and their mid, and then the NAOS side takes this opportunity to get a good support pool going. I don't mind either of these. Red 4, Renekton. This is basically the best. I've spoken about it before, but it's like you have Gwen who works into certain champions, and then you have these three that I just put dots on. Those are the best three. And then you have like Renekton, Riven, Garen, who are all sort of in that next tier down. Ezreal, Nautilus. I like this. Ezreal and Nautilus both are fine. You'll notice, again, I'm going to highlight that Helper is in here, just as a little side note. Nautilus is probably the best support left up. You could go Set, you could go Alistar. I'm not exactly sure if you like Alistar into Ornn, though. I feel like that's probably not a great move. And, like, Nautilus does the exact same thing in Alistar as Alistar in terms of, like, being an engaged champion. Alistar just has the ability to play a little bit more peely, and I don't really think you need that here, although it would be nice against the Vi. it's a personal thing, I think, in terms of like whether Yami plays the Alistar or not. And then we're gonna get the Orianna locked. Orianna is not good. So the reason that they lock Orianna is likely to answer the Kassadin as this hyperscaler, but the issue is that Orianna doesn't do any of the things that Kassadin does in terms of like actually putting pressure on the Vladimir. I also just think that she takes too long to scale. So yeah, she's just not good. OMG's been playing her a lot to literally zero success, so I don't know why teams are like trying to copy them. It doesn't make sense, right? Um, what the fuck is this shit? Just get me out, man. I hate YouTube ads. Might be time to download an ad blocker. Okay, getting into the game. So, like I said, game one, I kind of want to highlight Fate. I'll probably end up highlighting him throughout the series, but I think that this was probably it wasn't though. This was one of the more interesting games that he took in terms of like early pathing, and I just think that it was very good. I might be tripping on which game this is, but I'm pretty sure this is the game that I'm thinking of. So you're just gonna hide here so that if anybody tries to walk down this way, you just get the free kill. Interesting that Long is not putting any jungle vision in early, right? So like no ward here, no ward here, no ward here. Um, like no wards in these three common areas, which is very interesting. It looks like Vladimir is stepping up. So yeah, it looks like he actually does step up, get that ward down. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's the ward that Fate puts down. Just protects the early invade, but it's not the traditional ward. So what we've seen as the answer to uh, this early Raptors invade in terms of warding has been either a pink. We've seen either pink in that brush right there or yellow right there to have vision if anybody puts a ward in the Raptor pit, like where Nian just put his. So that's sort of the answers that have been there traditionally. I really like the answer here, which is put it here, because this means they're probably not going to have a sweeper activated, so they won't be expecting you to actually know if you've invaded. Obviously, it doesn't protect against any invades from the top side, but you can see that Renekton's covering that early, which is a very good play. My fans are dying. Okay, let's talk about. Okay, so, uh, interesting highlights here. Camille going blue instead of we've seen a couple Scorches. I'm not a huge fan of it. Like I've said, I'm a big fan of Giant Slayer. Especially, I think it's very valuable against Renekton, who's going to end up building HP. But I think it's probably just personal preference on what he likes in the matchup. It might just be something to make sure that he doesn't get completely stomped at like level 3, just so that he can keep up in terms of clear. If Renekton does start getting that pressure, it can be kind of hard to get out of Atlantis Camille. Interesting Renekton taking Nimbus Cloak here. I feel like that's not a popular option at all. So that's just like something that'll be interesting to see if it actually pays out at all. I like the Courage of the Colossus here. W sort of functions like Jax's Counter Strike on Renekton. In terms of jungle, so you can see Long going red runes here with a Gathering Storm. I'm not a huge fan of Gathering Storm right now. You don't actually end up getting that much AD from it. It's like I think like 14 or 15 at the time that it would usually be, which is a longsword, right? Longsword is 1280, 500 gold. Meanwhile, I think that over the source of the game, the 12 true damage from Brutal actually just ends up being a lot more. So I think that that's just a little bit better. Um, Also going zombie ward, you'll notice that a lot of junglers in WRL, specifically the APAC conference, don't actually go zombie ward when it's just better. However, I'm not gonna fucking rehash that argument again. Um, so you can see here why this is why I don't like the Vlad into Orianna, specifically Orianna picking into Vlad. It's because you can tell that Nian feels no pressure, going full red runes, not anything defensive in terms of like we'll see a lot of the Vladimirs go green runes and then like tech in the Gathering Storm here. Uh, But yeah, just literally nothing in terms of fear. So I don't like that. Oriana going normal runes. A lot of this makes sense into the Vlad. Interesting going electrocute and not first strike. We've seen a bit of both be popular. Now it's on to the bot lane. Anything interesting here? Yes. Hex Flash is interesting. I don't think this rune is good. I think it's Mega Bait. Also, none of the Perseverance. So a lot of times you'll see supports going Perseverance instead of Overgrowth, because they don't actually need the HP that much. But the additional resistances, if you feel like you're going to be getting CC'd a lot, are valuable in terms of MR. I probably wouldn't go Perseverance on Ornn, but I think it'd probably be very good on Nautilus here because like CC, 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 a bunch of CC on the enemy team. I don't think you want that much health because you know that Zaya is going to be going Giant Slayer and Oriana is going to be going Giant Slayer. You don't need to tech into it too hard, so I'm not a huge fan there. Also slightly interesting that Ezreal's going Kraken Slayer. I personally prefer Conqueror, but it makes sense. So Yami burns Flash here, right? Burns Flash for the root, and then they aren't able to get any kill onto Mimu. And so this is the game that I was thinking of. Okay, good. So while we're all here, pay attention to what Fate does. So um, that's the little tidbit here. So we know that Yami just flashed. Double exhaust burned. No summons burned from Ezreal though, except for the exhaust. You can also see because the honeyfruit respawned, Mimu isn't actually going to have to take a recall, so that's very valuable. And then boom, immediately. So no early wards in this brush. Fate is just going to walk down here after clearing blue Gromp. He's going to be level 2, and so he's just going to Q flash onto Yami, and then that is a free kill level 2. Oh, so yeah, Yami goes in here actually. Uh, I don't like this. I mean, so I understand why he does this, right? Because if you sort of erase jungle intervention from this scenario, right? Like if you're just like, oh, the jungle doesn't exist, like imagine he isn't here. I think this is a very winning trade, right? Because like you can see, Helper already has a lot more HP. Heal will be able to probably chunk down the Zyda like right there, before she gets out. So it's like it makes a ton of sense, but at the same time, it's really risky with no flash, no vision, right? And so Fate, I think, like this is this is just a very good read in terms of like, yeah, they're gonna continue to trade because we've seen a lot of times. I think this is something that's a little bit more like we've seen that a lot of times APAC teams will just get diffed mechanically by Chinese teams. Like it's like there's like sometimes the APAC teams will put up a fight, like G2B, right? But a lot of the times what we'll see is if you watch like the Team Flash games, the CES games, the stuff like that, those like lower tier APAC teams, you'll see that like they might be able to contest for like a minute or two, but like at the end of the day, the mechanics of the Chinese teams just end up winning out, and like the team fighting that they do is just a lot better. Um, and so it's like that's like I think that's there's a little bit of ego in this. Again, this is way too fucking deep, but I think that this is a bit of an ego play. Because like you have to be worried about the jungle level 3 here, especially when you don't have early vision. I don't think there's any reason to assume that he's not going to pass top, so he could still be very close. Um, yeah. The other thing that I think is important to consider is that I kind of thought NAOS looked like dog shit before this game. And like even then I'm still not 100% sold, but I'm sold enough to buy into like predicting them. But like I think that there's still room to grow for this team as well, so they might have a misconception on like what they're actually expecting here. But like Fate has been very good on like jungle invades and the like. I'd say the bigger issue has been Margot in terms of I think his support rooms have been god awful. And so that's where I'd be trying to like put my attention and focus because like Margot has I think trolled the jungle a couple of times with his support rotations. This is also really nice for Fate because like he loses no HP and just gets to continue to clear and path topside. Like he'll be slightly behind Long in terms of clear, but like you'll take that any day of the week for bot lane control plus a kill, right? Like now Mirmu can get a reset without actually having to give up anything, right? You can see right there. See, like, I hate this roam. I don't know if he's the one who makes the first move, because, you know, as you can see, we get kind of trolled here by the fucking replay. It looks like Yami resets first and then makes the move, but I don't like there being extra attention to mid lane when you're playing a hyperscaler who wants a fuck ton of gold and XP. Like at this point, he's just being a leech and it's not helping. I'd rather him be top lane because if he can like continue to create pressure on the Camille, I think that's very valuable. Lane looks pretty even here. Looks like it's gonna actually push out. Yeah, I think the lane should stay frozen in the middle. I can't tell. That one ranged minion had like super low HP, and I was trying to tell if it was because it was slow pushing out or not. No, it looks like it's staying frozen. Yeah, so you can't commit to that recall there. That's an awful recall if you stuck it. Only two cannon minions left, and it's not or only two ranged minion left. It's not a cannon wave, so there's no way to. You're gonna lose like both of those in terms of CS and XP. He's fake recalling. He can't stick these. If he does stick those as an acting, you can just hard shove full rage bar. So yeah, and now the Renekton can hard shove. And the wave is either going to reset or it's going to slow push out. So very advantageous for him. I hate this recall timing from Yai's. Again, the biggest weakness of Camille is that she is going to lose lane early. Like, she does not win. So Fate, having gotten everything in terms of jungle camps, is now level 5. Which means he has the jungle time to make a play. Again, really dark on bot here. I don't love this, right? Because usually we'll have like a ward in this brush or like a ward in river to just stop any like just running in here. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this bot lane from Nova. I've been outspoken that I think Helper is not the fucking sauce, and I think that most of the time swapping out your bot laner is not the fucking sauce. But I also think that Yami has not played very well either. So we're gonna continue to talk about that. But like you can see there's a ward here in this brush, right? But that really only covers ganks coming from this angle. When I feel like it's just as likely, if not more likely, that a gank comes from this angle, right? So like in bot lane, there's really 2 to 3 ways to gank, depending on how much vision you have, right? You can you can like walk here, wait for the wave to push out. So like if the wave's in mid, like if the wave is like right here, right? You can't walk into this bush without being seen. But if it like is pushed out to like right here where it is, you can walk into this bush without being seen. And then if they are able to like shove wave, they'll lose vision over this so that you can walk in here as well. And then you can like tower dive them from here, like violed out of the bush or something. Um, there's a few other options like we saw earlier where like you walk down here and like sit behind this wall and then like charge IQ, right? Like Vi's sitting down here, she walks this way, she charges Q and like aims right here. Or what Fate's doing right now, which is you go through this bush and then like you try to like sit next to this wall, or you just Vi Q right here and then immediately ult Ezreal or something. I like I said, I feel like warding in here is also just as important, and I don't really like that they're not doing it. Um, so we're gonna talk about this because if I remember correctly, this dive gets a little fucked. So I don't love Margot's support play, and I want to be fucking outspoken about that. Don't worry, we're gonna hear. I'm pretty sure we're gonna hear more about this. So when you're here, right, they are trying to crash this wave. What you want to have happen when you're doing a dive is you want all of the minions under turret they will tank turret aggro for you, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the goal here, right? Obviously, this minion's probably going to die, so you're probably only going to have 5. So this is the goal, right? You want to get all these minions under turret. You want to run in here, get close to them so that you can set up like your Ornn QE. Ornn's going to Q, he's going to E, he's going to W. When he does that, he will take aggro and tank the first 2 turret shots. After that, he's going to exit turret range, right? So that he doesn't give over any kills. By that time, the goal is to have killed Ezreal, because he's the main source of damage. Once you get that main source of damage dead, you can then kill Yami on the redive, right? However, to do that, you need to make sure, number 1, and most importantly, when you're doing a dive, that the minions get under turret. And I think that as Margot, it is okay, and you should actually sacrifice HP here and just stand right here. Like, it's good if you stand right here, because there are like a few options, right? One, you're going to sacrifice HP, but you're going to be able to thin the waves so quickly with Xayah that it doesn't matter, right? You're only going to take like maybe 2 Ezreal Qs, which will probably be about 50 to 100 HP, which I don't think is going to be the defining factor on a turret shot. Yeah, he should still be alive. If I'm doing my fucking, I'm eyeballing that shit. I think he'll still live, which is why I'm saying it's okay. The other option is if you stand right here, right, and Yami goes like walks at you and autos you, that's great, because that means he's committed. Fate can Q ult in. But like he's standing, like you can see where he's sort of standing, where he's standing behind or like aside his minions, and I don't really like that. Especially because the wave that's coming is, you can see, again, it's a caster wave, not a cannon wave. Right, so I was talking about them maybe having 4 to 5 minions here. They have 2. That makes this dive a lot harder, because what's going to happen here is, as Margot walks up, right, he's going to have to let the minions walk in front of him, because he doesn't want to take turret aggro immediately. When he does that, they're going to take a turret shot, Ezreal will Q them. He's going to then Q the second one and auto it, and they will both die. And by that point, there's no one to tank turret aggro, so you can't actually set up a dive properly. See? No one, right? He has to, instead of getting a normal setup here, he does a very good play. Let's be clear. This is a very smart play. This like flash R and then E, which is probably what he's gonna do. Right? This is a very good play. But there is a lot easier if you just don't have to burn flash, right? Vild. Xyld. Cool. It is now a 1-for-1. Xayah has to burn flash. It is now a 2-for-2. Xayah burned flash. Like, it doesn't feel great unless you like have a regank in like 30 seconds from Vi. Because like so many people had to burn sums, it's like that feels awful. And like I think the reason that so many people have to burn sums is because he doesn't just effectively block them here. Like if he just zones out the Ezreal and makes it really hard to CS the minions, I think they just get that dive off a lot easier. Yeah, so it's a negative play in terms of kills. It's 3-2. And yeah, I don't like this dive. I think that Margot needs to block those minions. And if he doesn't, right? Like let's say Margot is like, well fuck, we only have 2 minions now. I don't want to sacrifice a ton of my HP because I think I'll get 2-shot by the turret. And if I get 2-shot, then I'm gonna have to I'm probably gonna die. They're gonna trade 1-for-1. And it's not worth. Then just call off the dive. Like you don't need to turret dive here, I think. I think you can just like let it be. Because like a no dive, right, is better than a dive that goes poorly. And that's like I think the biggest thing to keep in mind here. Because then we see this. Right? Like and this is just trying to this is making a bad play disaster. Because you don't have any damage to Orianna yet. You probably haven't even finished your first item. And so, like, when you try to flash Shockwave, there's just no way that you're gonna actually kill Nian here. Like, it looks close, but that's like 50 to 100 HP. He, like, probably needed 2 to 3 autos to actually kill him. So I'm not a fan of how this played out. And now, again, because the Orianna died, they're gonna get a massive crash here. Orianna's gonna lose a ton of fucking gold and XP. Although Fade absorbs it, it's fine, right? But it's just like you don't love Orianna not getting that, because that feels bad, because she's your hyperscaler in this team composition. So they do steal the chickens here, but it's important to remember that like the big chicken is worth just as much as the little chicken, because the big chicken is the conservation proc. So that's what's really important. So Calm and Yise just opting for the handshake back here. That's to be expected, honestly. And so at this point, Nova have about a 1k gold lead. So I'm gonna highlight this because if you all are paying attention to like if you're interested in playing Kha'Zix, I always recommend you watch Long. You'll notice that instead of other junglers, he's going Vamp Boots here. He's also gonna go Q ult upgrade instead of QW upgrade. So that's something to keep in mind as well. They're gonna trade Herald for Drake, it appears. So nothing interesting there. Force out Zylt. It's not bad. Might be a play in mid. Burning Zylt is always risky because that means that like it's her secondary method of escape in terms of like just being able to kill somebody. It also means that she just has a lot of less pressure in lane, because like a lot of the Xayah plays that you'll see are like ult Q flash E or something, or like ult flash E as the ult is popping, not after the ult pops. But I don't think I need to mention that. Finishes up Iomu's. First time is going to be coming in soon. So yeah, you can see Claw Evolve and then Ult Evolve. Don't think that's Wings Evolve. I think he goes Wings Evolve third. So you can see here, they drop Herald mid, free Prio, right? They get Prio, they drop Herald mid, they immediately move top. You can see Helper, Long, Yami all going that way. Oh, and he sees Mirror, so he's gonna pop it. So yeah, this is very good for Long, or like very good for Long. Just like hop over, get a nice proc in terms of first strike. All you burn is Smite, but they burn Exhaust, and you know Smite doesn't really have that much of a cooldown in terms of it actually being needed. Fade on the hover here. So I'm pretty sure, but I don't know. I've never actually tested it. I'm pretty sure if you ever dash over this wall, it doesn't actually pop in vision, or if it does, it pops for like a millisecond, and it's really hard to see. But you can just see here. Does he do the tech first? Hold up, let me make sure. Yeah, so the tech here is if you sweeper on this side of the wall and there are wards over here, you can disable them with the sweeper first and then jump over and then actually auto them and destroy them. So just good micro from Fate. And then as Yami comes in, he just runs out. This is a really funny like bait and switch where like I think again like I said, I don't know if Yami just like senses it or like sees it flash and he's like I should just go check this bush. And then as he does, Fate just walks out, ults Vlad. It's really good. Nice, that's real snipe. So again, there you can see that is the third ult proc. He upgraded the ult. And then they're gonna get a bunch of fucking plates too, which is really nice. Got all the plates on the top turret, or got all the plates on the mid turret. I think they're gonna get all the plates on the bot turret as well. So just good play from Nova so far. But like again, I wanna emphasize that like a lot of the advantages that they've gotten are from like they got a very nice play in bot, which like was really nice because like if Long I think this will sort of be a thing that I'm going to talk about throughout the series, but if Long sorts getting behind, it's very, very hard for Nova to win the game. Calm just has to pop ult there. If you all remember correctly as Renekton, it's just free 500 health when you pop his ultimate, so just doing that to make sure that he doesn't get chunked down by something cheesy. Edge of Night second. For those of you that know, I'm a certified Edge of Night hater. I don't mind it second, and I don't mind it here. I think that it's a lot of value, actually, in terms of like what abilities it be blocking. I also hate it if it's first. I think that at this point I'm coming around to the idea that like it being second is kind of fine, actually. So again, Long just like making the game really hard to play because you can just see like he shows up over here and then like just kind of walks through this jungle and like just make sure that he stays out of vision. Like playing very, very sort of like an Evelyn. Like he's basically trying to operate like an AD Evelyn with his ultimate, right? And that's just again another one of those like highlight the nuance in terms of like what he's doing. So I don't know if Nian just uses pool here or something because it's hard to tell on the minimap obviously. But you can see here CC, and then like he has a chance here if he has pool, but I assume he just doesn't have it at this point. Then they go in for the gank. And then I think this is a bit of an overcook. So you can see that they attempt to get this mid turret, but it just actually takes so long without the minions that like it just isn't actually worth it. So as a guy who's sort of plugged Medjai's a bunch on my Twitter, I have we are we are reversing our opinion slightly officially. I think that in competitive, with just how little kills there are, I think that like Medjai's in ranked is still very good. Don't get me wrong, because that in ranked it's literally just a fight fest, right? But I think Medjai's in competitive is going to fill a very specific niche, which is I cannot complete my item before the next fight, but I have like 2k gold, right? Like I have 2k gold. It's about like 30 seconds to the next fight. Let me. Right, like 30 seconds to the next fight. I need something. Medjai's, I think, is the item you buy here because it's going to give you the 7% magic pan because it's a full item technically. It like has a very good upside if you win the fight, and if you lose the fight, you can just sell it back and it's not that much of a loss. Or like you can just continue to hold it until you get to later in the game. I'm not a huge fan of where Neon's building it here because I think that you really do want that crown on Vladimir. I think that that's very useful in terms of like him being, being damaging to himself. It's very useful to have that crown. It's just like an extra form of protection against the damage that is being done to you. Again, this is just a really nice team fight. You can just see that they force a ton of pressure on Margot. He has to back out, and then when he does, yeah, he just comes in with the Camille, drops the Hextech ultimatum. And they all sort of group up to protect him, and then when they do, the Vladimir gets a bunch of free damage, and then Long obviously just finishing off the the stragglers. Stopping the Dragon Stole feels really nice there. No major objectives for the next minute-ish, so don't expect anything interesting to happen. I'll probably end up skipping ahead, but maybe not. I don't know. So again, the value of just being invisible there is, I think, pretty obviously seen. Is that Hex Flash or regular Flash? Hex Flash. Okay, yeah, that's a fine Hex Flash proc. If it's regular Flash, it's like, eh. I also am just not a huge fan of Hex Flash. I think that the game's too quick for it. I think that, like, you don't have the time to set up like you need in most cases, especially in competitive, where, like, fights happen extremely, extremely fast. So, yeah. I also think that, like, having Flash, like, the cooldown feels really long. It's like, oh my god, 2 minutes. But it's not actually that long in terms of, like, how often you're actually going to need it. So Vi going Dawn Shroud second, Kha'Zix. This is an interesting build from Long, where he's going, like, you can see here, defensive item second, and then Duskblade third for that slow. This looks like Crown, I think. I don't know what that actually is. Alternator Blasting Wand? Yeah, that's Crown, I think. I think this is Crown. I'm not 100% sure. It's not Rabadon's. It's not Riftmaker. I think it's Crown. Don't like Magnetron enchant here on Nautilus, but we'll see if it gets any use. This has sort of been the new tech against crit, which is going that cooled steel, reducing the damage of crit, and getting you that determination third. And then you can sort of tech into whatever you want there. We'll talk about it later in the trace game, but there was some interesting builds for the Mundo. Little teaser there. I'm gonna drink some water. So again, I talk about why Zombie Ward is so much better than Eyeball Collector. First of all, just the stats, but as well, just like you can see here, this is just he's definitely stacked a Zombie Ward at this point, like 100%. But just having this is super valuable because it tells you like if they're gonna come here and try to contest you on the Baron setup. Again, also valuable to just have that there, so now you know Ward is sitting right there. Having information of the enemy vision is just as important as destroying it, you know? Because, like, if you have information, you can try to feed them false information in terms of, like, playing around vision. Like I said, I don't expect anything interesting to happen for the next couple of minutes. They're just gonna probably ping pong waves back and forth, um, which is the normal sort of 12-minute game plan. Unless Nova try to force a Baron, which I don't think is gonna happen. So yeah. I also don't like the I don't like the purchase of anti-heal on tanks in competitive right now. Since they removed the passive of being able to do the anti-heal with the CC, I don't think it's that worthwhile anymore because they kind of have to hit you, and I think most of the time, if you can just, it sounds simple, but like the tanks aren't that much of a damage threat, so you can just kind of avoid hitting them sometimes, and I think it's pretty easy to do if you don't have like a ton of AoE on your team. Like I think Xayah is probably one of the champions that I would expect that can avoid hitting Yami most times. Um, I have to talk about it here because I'm morally obligated to talk about Ezreal builds after the shit I pulled on Twitter. Riftmaker is bad on Ezreal. Can we stop building it? It's fucking dog shit. If you all are like, what are you talking about, Blaziken? Just check out I think the It Stewart's video and why they're wrong about how Sheen items work. I think that's what the title is. But um, the point is that Riftmaker is not actually that much damage on Ezreal. And like there are better AP items to do it with, so I'm not a huge fan of it. Um, I mean, nothing interesting happening, like I said. They're just going to continue to try to clear out vision. You can see Long just trying to make a play or two. Again, isolation damage on Kha'Zix, unless they're, unless the enemy is moving as like the normal big pack. It's also like really fucking annoying if people have Meteor to just try to fight the Baron. Redemption is also in that category of like, oh, I hate having like vision things that give me vision. It's really annoying to just deal with in terms of like macro. Again, I'm not expecting much to happen until third Drake. Because it's just like this is the point in the game where it's like I don't think either team really feels like they want to risk it in terms of a team fight at Baron. Uh, like especially because Kha'Zix is kind of squishy and like even though he does have vamp boots, doing Baron can be kind of risky, right? Like past 13 minutes, you don't want to do it because you don't want to give the enemy the Baron buff into finishing a Drake, right? So you're just gonna ping pong waves, look for a play. So team fight time. Okay, so using the Ornn ultimate first makes a ton of sense. So first of all, you can just kind of send it down this way, and it'll give you a ton of vision. Uh, but I think also it's just like one of the easier ults to send down safely. So they're gonna end up doing that. I think at this point you see the notification cause skill dragon. So you have to kind of decide if you actually want to try to fight this or if you just want to like back off now because like you've lost the neutral objective. You can just kind of play for scaling, although that 5.9k makes that a lot harder. So it's like where are we trying to play for the game? So like if you think you can win this team fight, I think that this is one of those like yeah we might as well go for it from NAOS. So look at long. And we'll get to talk about this because this is fucking trolling from Calm. But you can see here, he just goes in, and when he does this, he actually, I'm pretty sure, gets into isolation range. So Long just Qs him and kills him. But like you can also just see here that Long is doing probably the most effort in this team fight. Like, we have the replay anyway, so we'll watch the replay instead of watching the team fight over again. But I I just think that this is so much of the Long and Friends story again, and I hate hate seeing that because it's god awful to see a good roster, especially probably the one of the best junglers ever in WRL, wasted like this. So you can just see here, like Nian does a ton of damage. I will give him that. But like Helper, look at his Qs. Okay, look at how much damage Helper does. He like what? I can't see it. He does like maybe like an eighth of Mimu's health. Like he's not doing damage here. I don't know. I when I watch really, really good ADCs, it's just like, god damn, they're like, they're really fucking good at the game. But like, Helper just isn't that guy to me. Um, I talked about like, I did some wild speculation on Twitter. If you all want to look at that, about like, what do Nova do if they keep losing? Because we're gonna talk about this a little bit more, but they don't actually look great ever in these kind of series. So I don't know. It's like what are we trying to do here? And I think that like the answer to me for like how we have to like talk about fixing this Nova roster it starts with the bot lane. Obviously they've looked pretty okay in this game, but we'll have a little bit more to talk about in the next couple of games. Don't worry about that. Like I said, I like the Zaya build. Not going Shock Blaster means that I think you actually do a lot of damage over whatever the fuck some of these Shock Blaster builds are. Um, so yeah, Nova get Drake. They extend the gold lead by about 500 more. And at this point, again, we're like neither team wants to throw at Baron. I don't know. This is like to me, Nova don't look great here. And the reason that they don't look great is you can just tell they're not creating any Baron pressure. And this is the thing that I fucking constantly moan, bitch, and whine about. But like creating Baron pressure, if you are like a team that like gets ahead consistently, but you're like, hey, I can't win games. Like I'm up 4K at 17 minutes. I'm up like 3K at 12 minutes, but I can't make the game like turn out in my favor. Or like I have like a 50, 70, like you have like a 50 to 60% win rate where it's like Like, what's going wrong? Like, why am I not winning? Right? Why do my games feel random? The answer is going to be Baron pressure. This is not for ranked, by the way. Ignore this shit for ranked because creating Baron pressure in ranked doesn't fucking exist unless you're like playing a super high level ranked game. But even then, I doubt. Like, no coordination means that it's impossible to actually create it effectively. Um, I think I don't remember if it I think it actually happens later in this series, so I hope we get to talk about it more in depth there. But like creating Baron pressure is just so fucking valuable, and it's so good. And so you just need to do it. So Yami sitting on a ward gets caught out here, and then Long just obliterates Calm. This is what I mean when I'm like, look at this game, and we'll talk about it at the end. But if you look at the gold distribution, like even earlier, Long was like 2K ahead. Everybody else was even. It's on one hand, it's the Long and Friends show, and on the other hand, it's impossible to say if like you need to dedicate more resources to people that aren't Long to like I don't know make their lives easier. Because like Long playing a carry does obviously make certain like it means you have to change the way you play the game certain time frames. I don't know. I really like now just dropping a ward here. So you can just see that they drop a ward here, and then it's like right there on the map, and then they drop a ward here. Like, just making sure that there's no sneaks on Baron while, like, you try to fight Elder is really smart. It's just a good detail. And, like, I've bitched and whined and moaned that I think that a lot of Apex teams don't care enough about details. And I think that this is a good example of a small detail that is going to just improve your winning percentages. I also really like Fate's build. I love Warmogs on Bruisers. I think it's insanely good, especially on Vi, who like can like she sometimes falls off in the late game, but like I think that like Vi ends up feeling too squishy if you go full damage on her. And like especially against the Kazakhs, I really like the Warmogs. Just having extra health means that it's really hard for you to lose that jungle 1v1 if anything goes wrong. So we are now on Elder. They see it. It's at 6. It's at 4. It's at 3. And it gets burst down. So I think this is just NAOS not having a full understanding of the Kazakhs timers. It sort of felt like that in especially the Ocean Drake fight earlier, where they like weren't fully ready for just how fast Kazakhs does this objective. Cause like it's ridiculous. Kazakhs is the fastest neutral objective taker in the game. Like this is ridiculously fast, right? And at this point, it's like, well, now it's a 5v5. They have Elder, and they're like 6K ahead. Like, look at them. Like, look at Yize and Nian just 2v4ing in the back line. It's like, yeah, like, what do you expect? And then once they get that, they get Baron for free, and the game is over. Um, appreciate Fate going for the fucking Miracle Steal here. It was never going to happen, but I appreciate it. Also, wildly unlucky that Helper kind of just actually ends up like blocking him because like this could have been a ridiculous steal by Fate. It wasn't going to, but like it's just really funny that Helper ends up just helping his team out a ton right there. But yeah, this is the end of the game. So again, I want to highlight that like Nova did win that game, but it was not as clean as I'd like it to be from a like the best team in the league. And like they also got a huge advantage in terms of like that awful fucking tower dive that was done bot side. So like if now clean that up, I want like that is the sort of highlight that I want people to think about when you watch the next video is like, hey, what actually happens if now maybe like cleans up the gameplay just a little bit? Because like I do think that they genuinely played okay aside from the awful fucking tower dive. And so that's really going to be the interesting thing to talk about next game when like a lot of the like I think Nova weaknesses really get exposed. So I will see you all in that next one.